Hi, John. Thank you very much for joining me today and for your time for this interview. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Aina. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well as well. Thanks again. So let's get it started. I have the first question for you, and tell me a little bit about yourself because I know you, but we have some people who are watching us the first time. So tell me a little bit about yourself, and you're also one of the five leaders of PMO community. So how you can help PMO community?
Sure. So I'm a project delivery leader, and I've been in the project management space for the last 10 years, pretty much focused within the tech industry. Now, in my current role, I work as a program management director, and what I do at my role today is that I work with strategy planning. So I work with our leadership team, and I also try to align our strategy with our critical initiatives, which we manage as a portfolio. Now, how do I help the PMO community? I work with four other fantastic leaders, including yourself, Aina. And so what we do together is we listen to what our members have to say. We try to understand the needs of our community. We've been working on our community for the last couple of months, and it has picked up steam. So the question now is, how do we as a leadership group listen to what those needs are, and how do we best address those needs?
That's a great answer. Thank you, John. I really like the part how we are as leaders are listening to these changes and implementing them. And
Absolutely.
I see the value you can bring to senior project management. You mentioned strategy and also listening skills, but I'm curious, what are some mistakes you've seen senior project managers do in their career or in their day-to-day work?
It's a very good question, Aina. So I would say that there are two that stick out in my mind because I've been guilty of some of these mistakes as well, actually, in my own growth as a project management professional. So the first mistake is if we look at it from a people, process, technology, so that PPT acronym, the thing that I've seen senior PMs make as a mistake is focusing on the process of the technology over the people. And that's a huge error because you have to look at the culture of the organization. You have to see the readiness of the organization and how ready they are to adopt project management processes. So maybe you can come up with a robust risk management process, which you know really well as a senior PM, but then you have to pay attention to your audience. And when I say audience, I don't mean just the people that you work with. I mean at all levels of the organization. So you have to keep the needs of your audience first. The second one I would say is not having enough of a business acumen, not focusing on the business side. So one of the values that senior PMs bring to the table, at least the good ones, are understanding that there's a balance between, hey, I bring the expertise of project management. I know all these facets really well, but now how do I connect it to the bigger picture of the organization? Where is the organization trying to head to? What is the strategy? And how do I align all those people? How do I align all those pieces? And how do I corral the troops? Or how do I work with people to make that vision a reality?
Yeah, thank you, John. And now I feel like I'm probably in the minority because I always focused on people, but I totally neglected the technology. And the main questions I've got from my team or from the other stakeholders, so I know what technology we're going to use. And then it was like my question. I actually never thought about it. So I feel like it's a great combination to have like five leaders in our Canadian PMO community. So focusing on people, definitely important, focusing on the technology, and as you mentioned, this PPT. But now my question is, so how the PMO relates to this and how the PMO relates to the corporate culture?
So another great question. I would say before I answer that, we need to define what culture is. Culture is actually interesting, a very, very hard term to define. If you read a number of studies, you will see lots of definitions. The definition that I'd like to align to the most is it's this book written by Gustavo Rossetti, and the book is called Remote Not Distant. And the way that he defines culture in the book is it's the environment that helps people do their best work. It's the environment. So I'll say it again. It's the environment that helps people do their best work. So when we look at it from that perspective, PMOs play a huge role. Now, I'm also the belief that culture is top-led. It comes from the leadership team. That's how culture is set. But in the book, Gustavo mentions that culture can be designed to a certain extent, which I also believe. So if we look at designing culture, now let's come back to a PMO. How could PMOs help design or tailor that culture? So once you understand what the organizational culture is, PMOs can help in 4 separate ways. And I would say those ways come from a study that the Boston Consulting Group did with PMI. So there was a focus on critical initiatives. There was instituting smart and simple processes. So this is coming back to my point earlier. You might have a very robust risk management process, but listen to what the culture is ready for, right? And the second one is foster talent and capabilities. It's crucial that we learn to develop not just PM professionals, but others to also understand how a good project management is done. And then the last one is encouraging a culture of change. So by that, it means coming back to that strategy alignment. How do we get people on board that the initiatives that we are working on align on strategy? That takes a lot of effort to align across all levels of the organization.
I like your answer, John, and you had a quote from one book, and I have a very famous quote from another book. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So he spoke about culture, he spoke about culture, and he also told that we need to change the culture, but to need the culture, we need a strategy. But we know that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So what do you think about it?
I like that quote a lot. So in my view, yes, that is true. And for me, what I like to do is find the balance between culture and strategy. So if you have a very strong culture and a poor strategy, you're still going to lose out as a company, right? And on the other hand, if you have a really strong strategy, but a really poor culture, execution is going to be a huge challenge for you. So in my personal experience, I put them in the same footing and I try to focus on both equally.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we started talking about the challenges. So now I'm wondering, what is the largest challenge that PMO is facing today?
Well, there are lots of challenges that PMOs face in today's environment. Like, first of all, it's not a very well understood practice, right? So, and I would say there's 2 perspectives. There's one that you could look from the outside of the PMO, and then one within the PMO. So if we look at it from an external perspective, the question that most folks would have is, what value does the PMO bring to our company? And so you have to establish that value very quickly in order for a PMO to be successful. And then even within the PMO, the same questions. Hey, what are the right priorities we focus on? What are the skills? What are the technologies that we want to develop in order to be successful? So I would say that one challenge is establish the consensus very quickly on what the value that the PMO brings. There is a second challenge, which I would say, and it's related to everything you've seen me talk about, which is about strategy specifically. The second challenge I would say is that PMOs need to be more strategic. And what does that mean? It means that you understand what the company is looking to achieve, and whatever the PMO does from an execution perspective lines up with that strategic direction.
Yeah, thank you. So I think our audience is interested in certificates as well, because like honestly, I more value personal experience and like all types of experience, even maybe not really related to the specific role, but if you've been, for example, in hospitality management and then you transform into the project manager, definitely you already have this communication skills, negotiation skills, etc. But unfortunately, the current job market reality is people value certificates sometimes even more than the experience. So I'm curious, how important are certificates in PMO and also project management world right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know I am totally on the same page with you. There's certainly value in certifications. I mean, we're all busy. We've got, our 9 to 5 gigs and whatever else that we do. So certifications play a role in demonstrating the passion to the profession, but also the dedication that you want to bring to this table. What you're essentially saying is, hey, you know what? I've got all these things as my top priority, but I'm still committed to learning about the profession. So certifications have that value. So not only do you demonstrate passion, but you're genuinely learning more knowledge. And learning is always good. That's what makes us powerful as project managers. Now, to your point, I agree with you 100% that certifications cannot compensate for experience in the field. I think a very simple example, and I've seen this over and over again. You can have someone who's PMP certified, but doesn't have much experience, doesn't understand everything that you and I have talked about up to this point, about strategy, about aligning stakeholders. Put that person against someone who has 0 certifications, but has got years of experience describing everything that you and I have talked about. I think the answer is obvious, and who is actually going to thrive in that role more.
Totally agree. Thank you, John. And the final question, what is the value of PMO community?
So I really like this quote by Ken Blanchard. No one is as smart as all of us. And that is a very powerful quote because in my own personal career, one of the reasons that there are some things that I've done well is because of a community. Now, I wish we had a robust community as we do today early in my career, but what I leveraged mostly were mentorships, the networks. The point being is, think of having a map. Sure, you have the map, you know how to get from A to B. That's fantastic value. But what if you could chuck the map aside and you had someone in the passenger seat who's already been down this path? They can point out all the potholes. They can point out all the shortcuts that you can take. So having that value of another person or a community really helps accelerate your career that much faster. So apart from that, one of the things that we try to do in our PMO community is we try to watch out for each other. We have a separate dedicated jobs channel. So if you're out and looking for an opportunity, post in the channel, let people know that you're looking. We're all here to help each other. And from time to time, we do post up openings. That's just one example of how we help the community. The other way that we help is we come up with events where we bring up certain topics, all specific to the project management space. And we try to benefit our members by providing them with up-to-date industry news, as well as just, hey, how to get better in your profession. So I would say that is the tremendous value in a PMO community. If you can get from A to B in 5 steps, we will try to get you there in 2 steps.
Thank you, John. I'm very glad that I met you about 6 months ago, and now we are one of the leaders of the PMO community. So I'm looking forward to see us progressing and also helping as many people as possible. I have many more questions, but unfortunately we are out of time. So again, thank you, John. And guys, if you have any questions to us, feel free to reach out to us via direct message on LinkedIn or sending us a message on YouTube. And also, if you are looking forward about our next events or gatherings or interviews or any other information on our PMO community, please follow our LinkedIn page, and the link is below, and also subscribe to this YouTube channel and press the bell so you will be notified about our upcoming updates. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Aina.